Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of In My Plant-Based Kitchen. I am Emma Levez-LaRocque. I'm a registered holistic nutritionist and a certified plant-based chef. And today is the day of the week that I invite you to join me in my kitchen to talk plant-based foods and tips and tricks and a recipe and all good things. So today it is just before Canadian Thanksgiving, and I thought it would be a great time to talk a little bit about vegan holidays or plant-based holidays or healthier holidays, wherever you're at. If you're choosing to make more vegan or plant-based healthy options this holiday season, and this could be definitely part of your Christmas as well. This episode hopefully will be helpful. So the first thing I want to talk a little bit about, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the tips I have around eating plant-based and healthier over the holidays. I'm going to talk about what I'm making with my sisters for our vegan Thanksgiving this coming Sunday. And then I am going to share a recipe with you that I created a number of years ago to help or to replace the traditional cranberry sauce made from cranberries, sugar, and water that my husband loved. And that was his sort of family tradition, one of his family traditions. So I want to share that recipe with you. It's one of our absolute mainstays. We always make it, and it's a family favorite now. So I thought it was a good one to share today. So let's get started. So first, in terms of the holidays, this is the first thing I always like to say, and I used to teach classes on this, and I always get questions about this as well. What do you eat at Thanksgiving? What do you eat at Thanksgiving or Christmas if you don't have turkey, or if you don't have ham, or if you don't have whatever it is that people normally have on a traditional holiday table? And my answer is always a ton of stuff. And I think that's true for anybody who's been eating plant-based for any length of time. The funny thing is, it's a little bit of a joke because it is so easy to make a beautiful holiday spread because plant-based foods are colorful and gorgeous to look at. They're usually, if you're doing a plant-based spread, you're introducing a lot of fresh stuff that you may not have otherwise. Often you do. And that's kind of the really neat thing is that, and I think that a lot of people that I've worked with over the years have realized how easy it is actually to convert a holiday meal to something plant-based, because most of the sides are plant-based. Your mushrooms, your mashed potatoes, or your maybe not necessarily vegan, but certainly vegetarian. Your roasted vegetables, your salads, your that kind of all those types of things, of course, are meatless. So there's right there you have a lot of options. But it's really not about deprivation. And if you feel like you're going to feel deprived, one of the tips I have is to always, whether and I obviously if you're making it, you're not going to feel that way because you're going to make a fabulous spread for yourself and your family. But if you are going somewhere and you're worried there won't be anything for you to eat, I just always bring something, and I bring something that I know I'm going to love eating. I spend some extra time making a torte or a pie of some kind, or some main event, so that I know, okay, so I can add the roasted potatoes and the cranberry sauce that they have there and whatever else, and I can still make myself a really nice meal, and I'm not going to feel like I'm missing out. Also, if you make something really fancy and lovely looking, other people are going to be curious, and so I always make enough to share, and I always want to make sure that other people are going to feel welcome and maybe look at the food and go, wow, that's pretty cool. I could see doing that instead of a turkey or something like that in the future. The other thing I love doing is if I have because food, of course, is so wrapped up in family tradition. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's so difficult for some people at this time of year. They think, oh, you know, Aunt Matilda is going to be so upset that I'm not eating her XYZ dish. And what I have found, and other people have shared with me over the years, actually, is that if they're the one in their family who's decided to be plant-based and they want to try to do a plant-based holiday, is that they'll ask that person to, especially if it's someone who's a good cook, because usually they are, can you help me veganize this? Can you help me make a vegan version of stuffing? Like, what would you do? And then it becomes this amazing family project together. And I have things in my family that have become traditional things that we have every year because of that. So one year, my nephew and I created a squash and Brussels sprouts, roasted squash and Brussels sprouts dish together. And that now every year we have that because it's a tradition and it's a memory. So there's that approach to it as well, really creating it as or really looking at it as a way to create new traditions. The other thing is just about the healthy aspect of it. It's interesting that Thanksgiving, I think closely followed by Christmas, are two of the busiest times in the ER. I read this years ago and I thought, oh my goodness, that's so, you know, it's due to the overeating, the overconsumption, and often the overeating of really, really unhealthy foods, rich foods that can promote, heart attacks and things that, you know, obviously they're not going to give everybody heart attacks, but if this is someone who's, you know, sort of heading in that direction, this can be the thing that tips them over the edge. So it's not a time to get off your healthy eating. You know, if you're on a good roll with it, and there's no need to, because there are lots of ways you can healthify. This is a word I have made up. Yes. Healthify dishes so that they're not as rich. They're still absolutely delicious and tasty, and often nobody will notice. And what they will notice is that they don't feel as heavy, they don't feel as full, they don't feel as tired after their meal. So there are lots of tips and tricks around that, and I'll share some of those as we go along here. I'm going to share the one recipe today, and I'll share more over the next couple of months with Christmas and Hanukkah and all the other traditional holidays coming up. And the last thing is to just make it fun, keep it light. This isn't a time to pick a fight with someone in your family who wants to argue with you about the merits of plant-based eating, whether you're doing it for health reasons, environmental reasons, animal, you know, compassionate reasons. Face it all with a smile, keep it light, answer questions. It's a great opportunity for that, but not a great time to get into a big family discussion. So again, I've been there and I've heard lots of stories, and I think it's just a really good time to enjoy your family and make sure that everyone is comfortable at the table as well. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is just, if you are looking at developing a plant-based menu for the first time, things to consider. The big one, of course, is the main event. You're not going to have turkey, you're not going to have ham or any of the other, you know, things that wouldn't necessarily be a centerpiece. So what do you have instead? We will often have a pot pie, or we will have a nice cranberry tart. I'll share that around Christmas time. I'm going to share, there's so many recipes out there. There are actual full menus, but from amazing vegan chefs that you could just make all those things and you would be all set. Or even pick and choose from, you know, 40 different recipes. And I will share my holiday. I have a guide like that as well, and I will share that with you as well. But there really is no shortage of inspiration if you want to do this. So like I was saying, for the main, pot pie, a tart, something, you know, a tasty like chickpea thing wrapped in phyllo, mushroom Wellington. These are all possibilities for the big main event. And then it's all about the sides, right? It's about the roasted vegetables. It's about the, this year I'm going to make a a cauliflower gratin with cashew, so and some soy milk. So it's going to be lighter. It's going to be really tasty, but it's not going to be full of cheese. And, you know, really, it still will taste rich, but it's not going to be as heavy as a regular gratin would be. My sister is making pot pie, one of my sisters, and I'm doing the cranberry sauce, which I'm making right now because it's great after it's sat for a couple of days. I'm also doing some dinner rolls, and what else am I doing? I better remember. Date and walnut balls that are wonderful with the cranberry sauce and really nice as just as a kind of a little bit of a side. And I do have something else. I can't remember what it is right this moment, but she's also doing the Brussels sprouts and squash dish that I mentioned. I have another sister who's bringing a couple of beautiful salads. And so if you think about what that's going to look like, there's going to be lots of color on the table. There's going to be lots of texture. There'll be, of course, a lot of flavors that are all going to come together nicely. The salads will probably have a light lemony dressing or a, you know, some kind of orange dressing, just something really nice and bright and light rather than a heavier nut dressing or nut-based dressing. So it's going to be a beautiful spread. And those are the things that I would recommend keeping in mind: variety in color, texture, flavor. And then when it all comes together, you really can't lose. You can't, it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be delicious, and everyone's going to be raving about it. And no one's going to notice that there are no animals on the table. So let's get into what is not what is on the menu, because I just went over that. We're going to get into the cranberry sauce here. So like I said, this recipe I made up a number of years back when my husband has always had cranberry sauce. We never had it. It wasn't a traditional dish in my house. But when I got married to him, he's like, well, we have to have cranberry sauce. And so he made it the first time. And I remember being appalled, like just thinking, oh my God, there's like a cup of sugar in this or some ridiculous amount. And it's basically a little bit of cranberries and a whole bunch of sugar and some water and, you know, a very traditional way to make it. So I thought, surely there's a better way to do this. So I came up with this recipe, and it doesn't use any added sugar. It's all naturally sweetened. So it's sweetened with fruit and dried fruit and a tiny bit of maple syrup. So let's get to it. The first thing that you're going to do is a cup of water. And I'm going to just turn this on. You want to bring all of this stuff, all of the liquids and the cranberries at this point to a boil. So we're just going to turn that on. I put my water in, and we have 2 cups of frozen cranberries that are going in. You can also use fresh cranberries. I happen to have frozen ones in the freezer, so I pulled those out for the occasion. They're just plain cranberries, no unsweetened, you know, straight off the cranberry bush. And the next thing we're going to want is about a half a cup of orange juice. So I have an orange that is already zested. I do need some orange zest as well. So I'm going to do that momentarily. I highly recommend using fresh squeezed orange juice. It doesn't take much. It's usually 1.5 oranges or something like that. So let's do that. And the reason for that, I mean, if you can use like a not from concentrate orange juice that's in the bottle too, for sure. But I just love the freshness of the juice from the actual orange. So there is, I need half a cup, roughly. I'm going to make this close to the recipe, but honestly, I never measure it. I just kind of do it by taste. So feel free to do that if you're comfortable doing that. And again, I'll share this recipe in the comments below and on my blog this week, which is at plantbasedrhn.com. I'm going to need at least half, possibly another whole orange. So before I cut the other orange up, I am going to zest it because I need about a tablespoon of zest. So I've got my my zester here, also known as a microplane, and I've got an orange that you do want to get an organic orange if you're going to do this, because anything nefarious is going to hide in the skin. So, I love microplanes. They're so super easy, handy tools. You can use any other kind of, grater or zester as well, of course. But I like this because it doesn't end up giving you strings. And you want to make sure you don't, I talked about this in my citrus video, you want to make sure you're zesting. You don't want to get any of the pithy part. You just want to get the actual very orange peel on the outside. This is going to really brighten up that orange flavor in the cranberry sauce. Okay, I think I've got about a tablespoon. So I'm just going to, we're going to add that in a moment. Otherwise, I would have just done it over the pot, but we're going to add that once everything's come to a boil, so we don't need it quite yet. Whoops. Fussy getting it off here. But we can do it. So I've got about a tablespoon in there. Just to put that aside for the moment. And then I will take my zested orange and I'm going to juice that. Ooh, it's slippery now without it's been zested. Oh, my cranberries are already starting to pop. You'll be able to hear them. Okay, I think another half will do it. You can put a bit of the pulp in too. Just make sure you don't get any seeds in there. I think that's what I'm gonna do, is just add this pulp. There don't seem to be any seeds in these oranges, so that's not a problem. But just under a half cup, so I'm gonna add a bit of pulp. And away we go. I'm gonna add that to my mix. Next, what else am I putting in here? Next, I am going to put in 2 cups of dried cranberries. So these are naturally sweetened dried cranberries. Those are going in. Half a cup of raisins. And this is not a must, but it's a nice to have if you have access to some dried tart cherries. That's what these are. I put about 3/4 of a cup of those in. And those can all go in and bring them to a boil. If you've made cranberry sauce before, beautiful red color. Oh my goodness. This is worth doing for the color on the table alone. Oh, I just love this. It's full of spices. It's beautifully sweet, but with a citrus background, and it doesn't taste like that, super over sugary flavor type of sweet. It's a really natural sweetness. It's lovely. Highly recommended. I have lots of compliments on this recipe every year from my students that I've shared it with, from people who've made it in my classes, and also, of course, from people that eat it at my house or when I bring it. So the other thing we're going to add is 3 tablespoons of maple syrup. You could use agave instead if you like. And if you don't want yours to be it's not overly sweet, but if you prefer a less sweet one, you don't have to add this. You could leave the maple syrup out. So that is an option for sure. Add that, and then we're going to just let that all come to a boil. And what you want, it's the same as if you've made cranberry sauce any other way. You want it to come to a boil, and you want your cranberries to start splitting and opening so that they're starting to get to the point that they're ready to to gel up and become more solid as the cranberry sauce. So while we're waiting for that to happen, let's get our other ingredients ready, which our zest is already ready, but we need a teaspoon of ginger. So I've got some ginger here, and I am going to use my, this is one of my favorite tricks, the edge of my spoon to just take this is a very small piece of ginger. And if I try to get the whole, if I tried to cut the skin off, would probably be nothing left. So it's a really good way to just get the skin off and you don't lose all the ginger itself. And I'm not even going to worry too much about getting everything off. I just want the really hard, gnarly bits off before I slice it up and mince it. You do want to mince this quite well because you probably, especially anybody who's sensitive to ginger. Again, if you have family members who don't like ginger, just leave this out. Okay, let's move out of the way. And this is boiling away, so just give it a stir once in a while. So you're not only cooking the frozen cranberries or the fresh cranberries that you're using here, you're also rehydrating the dried fruit as well. Like I said, the tart cherries, or if you have the different mix, this is very customizable. I would just stay with relatively the same amounts of things, but if you want to use all cranberries or you want to add more raisins and use instead of the tart cherries or whatever you may, you know, those are all really good options. So make it so the way that you like it. And I think I was in the middle of saying, if you have a family member who doesn't like ginger, just leave it out, which you certainly can do. And we're going to add a bunch of other spices as well. And those are also very, let's turn this down a little bit. Those are also very customizable. Today, I'm going to add cinnamon and cloves, but again, cloves is something that not everybody loves. So if you know there's someone in your family who doesn't like them or you don't like them, you can use nutmeg instead or dried ginger or any of those really nice sort of holiday spices that you like. Right, so I have minced up my ginger. My sauce is bubbling away here. So I usually leave this for probably 20 minutes or so. I'm not going to do that today because I've got you here with me. It is boiled and the cranberries are starting to pop. I like leaving a few of the cranberries in there. So I'm going to go ahead and add my other ingredients now. I've probably got a bit more ginger than 1 teaspoon, but my family loves ginger, so we're going to go with it. We want a teaspoon and a half, 1.5 teaspoons of cinnamon, which I'm going to add right there. I've got 3/4 teaspoon and about 1/4 teaspoon of cloves. So I don't want to forget my orange zest at that right now. And I think that is everything. Let me just double check my recipe. You can add a pinch of salt to bring all the flavors together, but if you're making this a couple of days ahead, as I am, I don't find it's necessary. This improves with time. It freezes well. So I usually make up a big batch at Thanksgiving, and if I have leftovers, I freeze it and I add it to my batch for Christmas, and it works really well. So, oh my goodness, it smells like the holidays. And I might just put this down a little bit more. This hot plate is hotter than my stove is, or I might probably put it on my stove just on very low to just simmer away and bubble away for the next 10 or 15 minutes. And that is all there is to it. It's super easy. It is absolutely delicious. You want to taste it, which actually I will do right now. See if I need to make any adjustments. but it does, keep in mind that it does change. The sweetness level is perfect. The spice level is perfect. I'm going to leave it alone and let it just bubble away there for another probably 10 minutes or so, and then cool it down, put it in the fridge, and it'll be ready for Sunday. And if you find the other thing is, I like almost like a chutney texture for my cranberry sauce. If you like it to be a little bit more liquidy, you can just add a little bit more water, and that will be absolutely fine. This is full of flavor, and it's not going to taste watered down or anything like that. So that's it for today's episode of In My Plant-Based Kitchen. Thank you for joining me. Happy Thanksgiving, or you know, whatever holiday, if you're celebrating something else this weekend. I hope you have a wonderful long weekend if you're in Canada. And if you're watching this later on for Christmas or whatever, like I said, these things can also be applied to Christmas or other times of the year, other holidays. So if you have something that you would like me to cover in a future episode of the In My Plant-Based Kitchen, make sure you fill out the form below. If you have a question about nutrition or something you'd like to hear more about, or recipes you'd like, and I put this recipe on my blog. If you subscribe to my newsletter, which I will also put the link for below, you will get the newsletter every week, and then you won't miss anything. Anyway, thanks for joining me. Hope to see you next week.